Okay, then. There are not so many people today, but still, I believe we could get use of today's webinar by answering the task questions that I encourage you to left within the forum, since in case if you have something that requires more expanded answer rather than a brief explanation, so that's the only way I could get better prepared for answering, maybe showing something. So please, during our implementation of async if you encounter some technical difficulties, yeah, as I mentioned, the first contact point in any case, in terms of home task implementation or any other questions, is your mentor. But in case if you see that the mentor is not responding, or you want to know more about some approaches that could be used within the task, so I believe that's the good topic to raise within our Q&A session. Great, yeah, we'll return to questions a bit shortly. So let's have a look on what we have in the next upcoming weeks. So we have only one learning module for the current week, which could help you in organization of your task. So as you might have been seeing in the task requirements, there is plenty of non-functional requirements, and one of them states that the Webpack should be used, which could help you to bundle the entire application. Yeah, let's leave this point at the last week, since this is the only week where you encourage to use Webpack, since this week consists of some of the necessary modules. But at the same time, there is one important thing, that the application should be divided by logical layers. So it means that your application shouldn't be implemented in a single file. So that's up to you. How can you separate your application into logical modules? Let's see your understanding, and during the code review, mentors could help you to understand more about best practices on production projects, on how can you separate your application into a bunch of modules. So yeah, that's the important point, and this one is one of the steps to get closer to task completion. Okay, I remember some of the questions regarding the task were already asked in terms of our questions, so let's pick some of them. So first, do we have to submit the part of job? So maybe let's do it a bit larger. So I believe that should be enough. Okay. Do we have to submit the part of job done every week, or it's fine to submit all tasks done before the deadline? So the main idea is to submit the task once, whenever you are ready with it, whenever you have the deployed version of the application, and the deadline is close to be passed. So you don't need to submit the task parts each time. You need to do it only once, whenever you're ready with full completion of the task as increase. So the deadline of it would be the end of the next week. Yeah, and the main artifacts of the task completion is raising the pull request in time to deploy your application using the GitHub pages and the instructions already left in announcements some time ago. Yeah, I remember that someone encouraged this problem with deployment of the application to the GitHub pages used in the school private repository. So in case if the issue still exists and still actual, let me check whether every repository generated has all necessary rules and permissions to do so. But anyway, this stage should be done at the very end, at the most. So even though you encounter the problem with deployment of the application, so it's quite okay if you get proceed doing your task locally and then think about the deployment when the deadline will come. Okay. Um, what else can we cover here? Yeah, so as the previous week, along with the learning module, GSS programming, there was a test. Yeah, I remember that there was a bug related to put in the incorrect maximum score because maximum score for testing is 100, and I saw some of them much more like 140 and so on. So the issue has been resolved, and those who gets more than 100 points, so it means that you got more questions that intended, and still we put 100 for those people who get more than 100 as a maximum score. Since yeah, the bug was like actual for 1 hour, as I got from the developers. Yeah, but still some of you encountered this issue. So for now it's fully fixed. So thanks for noticing. So we could proceed uh, with the rest of the agenda. Okay, so I believe for now we don't have any much details to discuss. So before moving on to the task questions you left in the spreadsheet, I would like to ask you, do you have questions for now in terms of like organization or anything that bothers you? So let's discuss now, and then we could switch to the questions from the spreadsheet. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, I'm sorry. No, I'll go outside. So my question about how do we um think about hello. I'm sorry, I didn't go. Um,
Hey.
my question is about how should we deal with commits more than like before like sending a merge, before like connecting our mentor to check the task. We still need to make all the steps with commits, right? We just don't need to put our mentor for checking it while we are doing it until
So
the
the
deadline.
mentor, answering this right away. So the mentors will not like check the amount of commits, what are the blocks are used, like uh, the way of committing the changes. Like you can commit all at once, or you could separate the steps. Like let's say you set up the project with base files, you made the commit as one step. Step two, you implemented the markup of the page. This is step two. That's also could be a commit. This is fully up to you, but I would recommend to use commits whenever you see that you are completed with your current step, because in case if something goes wrong, it's more easier to revert the commit with one particular stage instead of like looking at the entire changes that you made. In this case, possibly you will not encounter this issue, but on production, it could be a nightmare. Whenever you merged some bunch of your changes, something is not working, and instead of like reverting everything that you made previously, you could just revert only one piece of commit that could affect the entire application. So yeah, answering one more time. So there is like no restrictions in terms of how much you will commit in your home task or how many of them. So it's fully up to you. The mentors will not check it.
Okay, okay, thank you.
Okay, something else? Great. So you could ping me later on, in case if you want to ask more. So I propose like to jump into questions from the spreadsheet. So actually not much of them, but still, let's get deeper. So what have I've been stuck to find results for learning single page application, how to build them. I tried YouTube, different websites, but still didn't find. Uh, didn't find anything that could help. What you or would you recommend? So as I already mentioned this thing during our previous Q&A, but let's have the rehearsal. Let's repeat it. So for now, if we briefly like get deeper, the you don't need like to implement the fully featured SPA application. I will show you in a minute what is expected. So how to differentiate whether the application is single page or multi-page. Let's say um, we need an example of multi-page application first. So I believe it's well, usually I use GitHub, but it's not fully multi-page. Some of the elements implemented as SPA, but still, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, because I haven't like found something. Let's try this one. Okay, and filter the requests. Preview. Okay. So I believe that could be a perfect candidate for us. Great. So this is the example of multi-page application. What do I mean? Whenever you click, you navigate through the sections of the application, you make redirections through the links, you could notice that the application has been, the page has been refreshed each time. So whenever you click a link, in response, you get the HTML document. So let's see, now we click the link, and in response to that link, we get the HTML document, which has all the necessary elements to render on the page. So it's basically it's something like server-side rendering, but in our case, what matters is like the application has the layout has been refreshed each time whenever we make the redirections. We click software and OK. So we got another HTML document to render in the browser. However, if we look at the examples of single page application, what is which is our stage right now, our goal to do so. Usually, like I use the Angular documentation, but don't worry, we're not getting deeper into Angular, but this is like just for example, for your reference, how it's actually working. So basically, all the SPA frameworks work like the following. So I will do the following. So whenever we first get navigated to the resource, and look at the body, we see that inside the body, we don't have anything that is related to our final layout. No header, no content, no footer. So the application loads like the following. We got the base HTML that consists of all the links and scripts that needs to be loaded when the application starts. And when we click on some of the links, we see that the application is not refreshed. The page is not refreshed. If we filter the requests by documents, which actually stands for the HTML, we see that we loaded it only once whenever we navigated to the application. And each time we navigate through all the links, the page itself is not refreshed. So we only like fetch all the necessary content to be displayed on the page dynamically. So basically, it means that we identify the parts of the pages that will not change anytime. So the example of these elements is footer and header. So as usual, like the only thing that we need to change whenever we get navigate through the links is the container that each time will be re-rendered. So it's in brief what the single page application means. In our reality, during the implementation of the async race, we do not need to implement fully featured single page application. The main thing that needs to be considered is whenever, okay, so maybe let's find the demo I've showed you previously. Uh, okay, so now I haven't started the backend locally, so that's why I don't have anything to show you right now. But what matters is that we have two, let's say, views or pages, something like that. Whenever we click, we do not refresh the page fully, so we just switch the layout. Garage will consist of all of the cards that we generated in Twinners, the table with the results, right? So the page is not refreshed, and the most important that um, the state of the application should not be resetted, right? Um, in this case, it means that the application is SPA. So the easiest way to do so, the easiest and maybe is like to implement two blocks. Uh, let's say the first one will be um, winners or garage. It doesn't really matter. And the second one will be winners. So that's actually two views. And whenever you click a button, you could assign or remove the class simply to toggle it whether or no to show this particular view. So you could like create a CSS class with the property display none, like this, right? Which means that only winners will be shown. Um, or use it simpler, like to assign display none for every content. Let's say this is like the content, and assign class active, which means that this particular block will have display block. And the rest of the content will have display none. So I believe that will be the easiest way to achieve the intended result. So the application will have the state every time whenever we manipulate with the links. And by clicking this button, we could assign this active class to one of these contents. So that should be enough. We do not need to implement routine, full markup generation. Yeah, it's up to you if you want to have experiment with such mechanisms. But this is the simplest way how can we achieve our results. I believe this should not be a problem. Okay, I hope I answered fully that question regarding SPE. So getting back to it, so if you are interested in learning the SPA best practices, the concept itself, yeah, we could like leave the materials separately, but in our reality, within the asynchronous task, it's not needed. The only thing we need is how can we transition between two pages without losing the application state. So great, I believe I answered it fully, and now it's okay. Best practice is to change color of the part of an image. The simplest way, how can we achieve it? So maybe I need like to, still I need to run the backend. So maybe let's give me some time. I will like Synchronous API. I will start this one and will show you from the demo. Okay, so let's have a look what we have in the places where the cars appear. Okay, the property path, interesting. And actually, all of these elements are SVG. So you could find any of the SVG assets, which are the vector images, and easily change the color by using the property fill. Uh, so that could be as a property in the SVG itself, or it could be the CSS property as well. Not in our case, but yeah, if you look closely at that, the SVG also like is the HTML-like syntax. It also has the tree with the attributes, with properties, and uh, you could use it as to change the color. So there is the property fill that actually will change the color of the element. Yeah, now fill it's like applies only for not to the stroke that's intended, but okay. So you could like search for how to change the color of SVG. SVG is the simple, it's like just the vector image that consists of lines, circles, the basic uh, geometric elements, right? And use the SVG syntax to change the color. So this is the simplest one. One of the other possible solutions that you could use, well, not sure it's okay. Uh, I just encountered this only today, but there is like the set of filters that could be applied in terms of CSS. I've just found this only today. Yeah, you could like use the property filter uh, to change the look at feel of the PNG in case if you use it. But my recommendation that you could still you need to still to use SVG. I don't think it's a problem like to find appropriate SVGs. So and you don't need like to have multiple images to it. You could just find only one SVG and apply the property fill. So if we like look closely, there is like the CSS tricks. Yeah, as I see here, so we could use just in the CSS, we could use the property fill that could override the entire color of the SVG. You could like look closely here, and in case in order not to miss it, we could maybe let's use materials. useful links. I will paste it right here. And in case if you need to work with PNG, okay, that's also an option, but I still encourage you to use SVG. Okay, got it. I believe I answered this one. Do we need to deploy it? And yes, from how from private repo we should do it. So one more time, I left the instructions in the announcements, so you could look here. And as I mentioned already today, I know that some of you encountered the issues. So let's give me some time to check all the necessary permissions. But still, the deployment should occur could be occurred at the very end. So in case if you're struggling with deployment, I would recommend rather switching to the actual implementation locally and then think about deployment at the final stage. Do we need to merge a new branch for this task with the main or GitHub pages? So the GitHub pages, in case if you're deploying your application is used only for the content that will be served and opened within the browser. So the GitHub pages should not consist of the source code, right? In case if you use the Webpack or any other bundler, it means that you need to merge only those files that will be used for opening your application. And if considering merging with main, so I mentioned it previously, but it's fully up to you. You could like merge your pull request after a final check from your mentor, and in that way you could gather all the completed tasks as your future portfolio. Why not? But it's fully up to you. So for the GitHub pages, okay, so let's agree that for now we're not focusing on deployment. We need to do so still, but for now let's focus on implementation. Here, how would you recommend to start writing this task? What parts could be the main focus? Well, the task actually the implementation should be started a week ago, ideally. But okay, everything is possible. Okay, how can I recommend like how can we start any complex tasks that needs to be done? First, you need to look at the requirements and identify the steps uh, that you will follow during the implementation. Okay, for now I see that I have two views, Garage and Winners. So possibly I could start with the markup itself to apply appropriate styles and so on to create the HTML markup for everything. Then, okay, I understand that my application should be divided by modules, but for now, I don't have any understanding which of the modules I will have since I don't have much practice, much experience in that. But okay, we could start writing a single JS file for everything. And then whenever I will see that my JS file will be so huge, then I would start looking at the JS code one more time, and possibly I will get the idea on uh, which parts could be separated from the main JS file. And then you will start identifying the future modules. So you could start any complex task could be started with analysis of the requirements that needs to be implemented by identifying the steps that you'll follow during the implementation. You could start with the basic project structure like single HTML and single JS. And then when you like will reach the half of the implementation, you could start looking at your code to identify the areas that could be improved. And then maybe you got the idea how to organize the project structure in a better way. since you don't have much experience in writing complex applications. Well, so I believe that should be enough for start. But anyway, if you see that this information I announced today is not enough in terms of technical details, so you also have mentors that could encourage you to start using this or that particular tools, the project structures. So the mentors are the people who definitely have the production experience, and they could help you to start the complex tasks in a smooth way. Okay, so I believe I'm done with these questions from the spreadsheet. Maybe you still have something else to ask?
Oh, are you ready? I'm
Okay,
back.
please go ahead.
So as always, I have a bunch of questions. Let's
Okay,
start
let's
with
go by.
how
Mhm.
how should the project layout look? Like, do how should I say it? Uh,
Sorry, by
do
layout you mean
like
the look and feel?
like directory.
The
Like
project structure, right?
yeah, the project structure. Yeah. Do we like God? Do we like take inspiration from the React components, something like that? Because we have non-technical requirements where we shouldn't have a JS file with more than 40 lines of code. So is
Okay.
it something like we do in React where we have like some component component and where everything goes to it, like one directory there, and then I don't know, like a car, and then we have like a garage, and then we have a winner, and everything like goes into those directories separately?
Well, first of all, there is no any strict requirements in terms of how the project structure should look like. It's fully
Mhm.
up to you. Whenever you start like separating your logic into modules, you could consult with the mentor who already has production experience and could like give a tips on how which directories you need to create. But I would say that the basic project structure in our case should be enough, like having separate folders for types for resources like CSS, images, it's all together is assets. You could have assets, JS, and one single index HTML. In terms of project structure, it's enough. Our application is not so complex that we need to think on the project structure more precisely. But you could consult with the mentor who has the correct understanding on the project structure. But in our case, it's optional. We are not restricting you or encouraging to use this or that particular project structures, and there are lots of methodologies how to use it. So answering, it's up to you how you will organize the project structure. So you could like come up with some of the ideas and during the code review to ask the mentor whether, okay, so I tried my best and did the following way. Is it okay? Or maybe you have some other recommendations. So did
Okay.
I answer your question?
Yes, thank you, Pasha. And next one would be, as I understood, somehow, somehow, I was apparently again brain dead. I thought that we should write everything in JS code, like we did with Bookshelf. What's it called? I think Bookshelf, yeah. Where we have no HTML and all HTML was done in JS. As I understood now, it doesn't matter. Like we decide, do we use uh, do we write in index HTML or not, right?
Okay, so here, have a look at the requirement. All the HTML content is generated by JavaScript. Body contains only one text script inside. So it means that again, as in the bookshop, you still need to generate all the content using JavaScript.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay. I just got confused because when you were showing like blocks, I thought that we
Okay,
could
these
write it in
blocks
English.
also should
Okay.
should be generated as JavaScript, but
Yes.
what I was writing is just for your reference. friends
Yeah, okay.
to make.
And one question about Iceland is that, like, uh, on previous session, you said that if like mentor will check and break something, if Iceland didn't like show up a warning that something should be written differently, then it means that we didn't use it. I'm confused. Like, is plugins in VS Code would be enough, or we need to download some dependencies later on for Iceland?
Yeah, for the project, you still need to use dependencies. The VS Code plugin is used to just to load the configuration that you will provide in your repository. Just because not all of us use VS Code, and let's say if you have ESLint, for me it will not work since it isn't configured in the project. And also like to automate the process of verification. Let's say you need to set up the verification of the code each time you push some changes. You definitely need to have ESLint with all necessary plugins installed, because by default the VS Code plugin will take or look for the configuration for the ESLint configuration in your project. And in case if you didn't find it, well, perhaps I have no much understanding on which configuration will be used, but maybe do recommend it. Having the ESLint installed in your project will let you to customize the rules that could be used in your project. Okay, for now, I encourage you to use the ESLint with the recommended set of the style guide. So there is like the plugin with the Airbnb style guide, right? So ESLint config Airbnb should be used in your project. And please pay attention to all of the errors and warnings that ESLint raises you, since it's fully based on the Airbnb JavaScript style guide, which is like I would say is the general set of rules that all of us should stick to. Okay, uh, did I answer
Yes,
all of your
yes,
questions?
thank you. No,
Okay.
no,
No,
not all.
not all.
Okay,
Okay,
so
let's proceed.
uh, okay, I forgot the question. Wait a second. Um, oh yeah, modern normalizer. Can we, well, later on when we will be doing like Webpack week, can we install modern normalizer dependency, or is it not okay?
Oh, well, I would say everything is which is not prohibited. It could be used. So if you see
Okay.
that this dependency could help you with like to optimize your final bundle, okay, why not?
Mm-hmm. Yes, okay, thank you. And another question, last one, actually, is that for next
Hey,
week,
please.
can we like continue writing question to the same form that
Yes,
we?
definitely. This is the same form for each of the weeks. So like for some time ago, we stopped using it because most of the questions were asked in the chat or in the Q&A session. But for now, I still encourage to use this form because if you like, will post the complex question that will require some I would say expanded description of it. So for me, I will need some time to get prepared, maybe to find some examples. So let's agree that for the for the next week or for any other week to use this form to post your questions here, so that I could get better prepared for the next Q&A and perhaps to show you something that is related to your question. So yeah, let's use this form.
Okay, thank you. Now I'm done. Thank you very much.
Okay, great. Thanks for your questions. Okay, is there any other topics to discuss today? Looks like no. Okay, oh, Debbie, please go ahead. Debbie, do you want to ask something or?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Okay, so, like I have a question. It's not about the tax or anything. So my question is about the cost generally. And it is that, is it possible that if someone leaves the course at stage two because of some, like, maybe circumstances that are beyond the person, can someone join again in stage two, or the person have to start all over again?
So in case if you encountered something that prevents you to complete the tasks on time, or you like not will not like manage to do everything because of the busy workload or any other good reason, you could contact your mentor to agree to shift the deadline for some time. But in case if you have a good reason.
Okay. So there's no chance leaving the course and coming back,
Yeah,
right?
okay. So if you think that you're not having enough time to get fully involved into the course, so that could be an option, like to leave the course if you see that for now you're not ready to finish it. So yeah, it's possible to get enrolled in the next course run to continue the education. There is no any limitations of passing the course, how
Yeah.
many of the attempts. So
Yeah.
mhm.
I know that. Yeah, I know. I know you can leave and join back. But my question is, when you leave at stage two, for example, can you join the next one like with stage two, or you have to start all over again? That's like my question.
No, you
You have to
you
start
will
all over
continue.
again.
You will enroll and start from the very beginning,
Ah,
because yeah, each time the tasks could be different. So that's why we have no such option like to leave you at the stage two. So in any way, you will need to start from the beginning.
okay. Thank you.
Okay then, so I believe we're done for today, but still you have our contacts. Again, thanks for attention. Thanks for your questions. So for today, I believe we're done. And most importantly, so already have a Christmas past, at least in European locations. So wish you happy holidays, happy New Year, and hope you'll get enough rest and enough encouragement for the next year for new achievements. So yeah, guys, happy holidays, and we'll see you next year.
Yeah, guys, happy holiday, and I wish you all the best the next year. See you in the next year.
Okay, thanks.
Happy holidays. Bye bye.